Maybe I can get this position back. It's always difficult to speak up to your boss. You know, what do you say when he said, "Oh, no, that's a great political picture that we." I'll put it a bit lower because otherwise it starts resounding. I think you'll have a strong voice. It's difficult to speak after your political master when he said the political scene, the political context within which we work. But I will start with his gratitude and leadership to the Annotation. Carmen is here, and she spoke also last year. Remember that when we signed the declaration, she was always there. Marcos, I see him fairly regularly in Brussels and elsewhere to work on this movement together. But some of you who are deeply enshrined in some of the projects that we do may want to know a little bit of where we have come from, actually, what journey we have gone through. And then later on in the afternoon, I would like to discuss with you what sort of journey we can go on together. When this whole movement, Living in .eu, started, where did it come from? I mean, you have been to many of these sort of events, always wonderful events, and we share good practices, and we meet each other, we network, and then either you don't really have the impact on your political masters, and they do their own thing, or your political masters, Carmen says, well, thank you very much, Marcos, enjoy yourself, but I have other fish to fry, you know, and that is the mismatch that we saw. When I say we, it were a number of organizations that had been working with the European Commission on a number of these projects. Martin is here. Yesterday you saw Dorothy Nielsen. We also had the European Network of Living Labs. And we actually said that, yes, we can do another set of lighthouse projects, another set of large-scale pilots, another set of this, another set of that. And we all came to the conclusion that that is all nice, but if we would like to construct the European Union that Thierry Breton just described, we will need all 86,000 municipalities to sign up. All 86,000. Now that is quite ambitious. To be honest, when we started saying this number, I asked the colleagues, how many municipalities do we have? We didn't even know. So, but we need to all sign up. Now we set KPIs there that are a little bit less too bad off. So that's good enough. But it is that ambition that we set to say, let's work from a movement, from a vision, and then let's make sure that the projects feed into that mission. And I think the Aurora project is a very good example, because we were sort of halfway in the declaration was signed in Porto, and then all of a sudden, out of a call, 2 rural projects came up. And then we said, oh, maybe we should also think of the rural areas a little bit more, and not just all the cities that you always see. You know, you always see the same, let's say 200, 300 names in all the commission proposals. And at one of the summits or conferences that the organization of Agile and Smart Cities organizes, normally in January, my Director General actually gave things that I want to repeat to you, which is the change of mindset. We need to move from cities to communities. I think Carmen just said in Portuguese, if I understood well, that this is a transversal thing. This is not a sector policy that we're doing. This is a transversal thing, and the word communities captures 2 things. It captures municipalities that do not qualify as a city. In my part, where I come from, the government, where the government is seen, is not called a city, even though they have like 600,000 inhabitants, because they never signed a charter. They're still a village. But you know, what is a city? What is a community? So it captures also the smaller places that we need to capture, but it also captures the areas within cities that are not covered. Because often you find, take Lisbon, take Amsterdam, take Barcelona, you know, we always showcase are the great stuff that we do in the middle of where all the tourists are. But go a little bit further north, a little bit further east, and you find that these communities are not covered by that digital transformation. And this is transversal nature. And again, Carmen said it to bring everyone on board that we need to do. That is why you need to move from the idea of cities to community. Now this is a fight, because it's still easier to say, oh, smart cities, what do you do smart cities? And when I was nominated where I am, I'm the head of unit for technologies for smart rooms. Don't ask me where the name comes from, but actually they said to me, Eddie, you're going to have the technologies for smart cities unit. I said, okay, why technology? Do me one favor, allow me to call it technologies for smart rooms. That was the only influence I had on what I was supposed to do, or I wasn't asked to go, that wasn't asked, the mission statement was written. But that name I became, and it's important, that's the first thing that my Director General said, we need to move from cities to community. The second thing that he said, you need to move from systems to ecosystems. Now it's actually interesting coming from an engineer, because they are much more system-based. You know, we love to do interoperability stuff, and I had a conversation yesterday about interoperability. We love to develop new systems and new computers and quantum and all that sort of thing. But we find it difficult to bring all those elements together. And one of the things that we did in the Living in Nottingham movement is to say, well, if we approach this digital transformation at local level, you need to have all stacks covered. You need to make sure that there's broadband coverage. No point having fantastic algorithms and cloud computing if you don't have 5G. That's not going to work. You need to make sure that you have the platforms in a certain way organized technologically. I will not go into the details. You need to have data management. You need to, in the end, go for the output. And often in these good practice seminars, you see, oh, I have a wonderful app for mobility. Yeah, that's nice, but how does it relate to the work you're doing on energy savings or on other things? And it's that integrated approach that we need to have, so from systems to ecosystems. And that is also how we would like to see the projects that are now coming on stream. Now, the way, so I decided not to propose, it was an option. I said I could propose 600 million for 50 large-scale pilots, and then we would do wonderful stuff that we can show. I said, no, but to be very honest, I wouldn't have gotten the 600 million. And so I also cut my losses. I said, well, why don't I just ask for 20 million to set the pieces of the puzzle in place to get a few support mechanisms. So they will come on stream. We find projects like our role, like the role, there's DT for regions, Francesco will speak later from Emilia Romagna, that we brought in together in that also what I call project ecosystem. And some of you will remember that what happens when you do a call, then there's a result of the call, particularly on research projects, and then there's a civil servant who says, okay, they should go together, let's do a cluster meeting. And then the cluster becomes the policy. No, we said, no, we build an ecosystem also of the projects. And you're part of that conversation, and I really appreciate the work that Marcos is doing that. Then the last thing my Director General said at that conference was, we need to move from design and directive approaches to empowerment. It's also why you find, if you see the logo of Living in Nottingham, it's not compatible with European Commission rules. The data, they ask me about data protections, I don't know, I don't deal with that. Because it's not my Commission movement. It's a movement from a number of representative organizations, and it's people like you that need to carry it. There's no point me pushing all these agendas on behalf of the Commission, because it's not going to work. So, what we're really trying to aim is to empower you, and I think Bonavi said it this morning, to do things the way you think it needs to be done, as opposed to the way the Commission has set out in the communication or whatever paper, or in the grant agreement, as Bonavi said this morning. That's the starting point of getting that conversation, of empowering you to work in that same field. The name Living in Nottingham, I also did not invent it, it comes from a collective thinking, but I actually quite like it. Because you know, we put this flag up and we have an anthem and there's all sorts of things happening, but it must be meaningful to be part of that European Union, even more in a number of the crises that we have seen recently. So that is what we have tried to do, work from that common vision. Now, what do you do when you have a common vision? You say, like, okay, we all need to work on platforms and stuff. So I get all the engineers in the network and say, yeah, but what's the point if people like or the mayors of the city say, well, let's just buy, well, I won't mention the name, but off-the-shelf products that basically give me a solution immediately, and I don't have to do development, but at the cost, of course, being locked in, and maybe it becomes more expensive, and I lose the control over my data. But that's fine, because I have a nice app for my citizens, and I'll be re-elected. No, we need both. We need the politicians to say, we're going to do it in a different way, And then you need people like us to get together and live up that dream. And that is what we have tried to do with the declaration. And actually very interesting, you know, I said it yesterday, but you were not in the room yesterday when, I think it's a different audience, but I say it again. When I heard vendor locking and interoperability, you know, it's not the most sort of sexy word to go out in a speech. But interestingly enough, on page 75 of the results of the Conference of the Future of Europe, our citizens say we should avoid vendor locking. I was flabbergasted actually to read that. And on page 77, they say the European Union really needs to work on interoperability, our citizens. So, well, we didn't really get it wrong, I think. So we're getting there. Now, a number of the projects, as I said, are now coming on stream. There will be coordination and support action, which means that we as a Commission can value the efforts that some of the people have made, and some of them have made them for free, without being funded. But also more and more we came to the conclusion that how do I match that technical vision of urban platforms and data spaces and all that sort of stuff with the use cases that politicians need. And one of the intermediate result that we saw that we should have is local digital twins. Because through the digital twins, you actually bring all the technology together, because otherwise you can't create a local digital twin. But from that twin, you can do a number of simulations, services, etc., that you can provide to the citizens. And Jeremy said it. That is also very logical link to the destination, basically mapping the whole of the world, you know, and then doing all these simulations. So we basically try to make those agendas meet. Now, why it is important to be in Alentejo today, Marco said it, because also we find that villages of, let's say, 30, 40, 50,000 inhabitants do not have a chief technology officer with 20 staff that looks at the digital transformation. They can't do it individually. So if you're lucky, they will buy something off the shelf, but that might not be the right thing. And you see there's a sort of collectivization of the effort, which saves human resources, but also is much more efficient in terms of financial investment. And then you say, oh, I might have 20, 30, 40 municipalities coming together. Hey, actually, that's a region. And that is where a regional level plays a role. A different role in large metropolitan areas, where there will maybe be a dominant player in such a constellation, but still they need to do it regionally. There's no point for Barcelona to limit itself to the Barcelona boundaries, because you know a lot of traffic comes in from abroad, a lot of people actually working from far away, so you need to have that much broader ecosystem that you have to have. We also said that this was born as a counterweight to, let's say, big tech suppliers that overwhelm us with fantastic stuff, but we can't really control it. We said we need to have a counterweight, so that also on the demand side we're properly organized to have a conversation. To give you a simple example, if the city of Évora would say to Google or a big company or Microsoft or let's say Nokia or Atos, whatever, well, can we negotiate a standard contract? The answer is you must be joking. It's a take it or leave it with all the stipulations. You know, it is accept all type of thing on the cookies. Now, maybe Barcelona can do it, maybe Beijing can have certain negotiation levels, but not the city of Évora or my home city, Utrecht. So you need to collectivize this, you need to have that counterweight. At the same time, you can't do it alone. None of the cities here, no one is going to actually develop the technology, because that's why they have companies. So we're now building that interaction between the supply side and the demand side, and a lot of companies, including Atos that was here this morning, have actually joined the movement as supporters. And that's maybe the last point that I want to make. This is about the EU. It says the EU mayors are of the opinion this, that, and the other. So that is, if you like, the collective feeling that we have to live in the EU, the pride we have in the blue flag with the yellow stars. But it's not an exclusive, it's not a fortress Europe that we're trying to build. We try to build it together with international partners. We try to build it together with international standard setting organizations. So there's a lot of technical work that is ongoing. Also, we try to create, I was going to say team Pluton, but let's say team EU to actually do this. And that is also where the assistance of the projects is very important, because we do a lot of learning in those projects that we need to go into the policy settings here. That interaction between projects and policies, I think, is very, now, as I said, it's difficult to have a big conversation after your political master, but I hope it clarifies a little bit the journey that we have gone through in the thinking as civil servants when we're preparing for the new financial perspective. We would like you to join that journey. Maybe it's almost a pilgrimage, but let's say it's maybe the right place to start here, a pilgrimage. But you know, to join us on that journey, because we can only do it if you and I are committed to the end result through the work that we are already doing. That allows us, let me see, the next on the program is going to be a presentation by one of the leaders of the DT for Regions. It's the General Director of the Emilia-Romagna region, who's also leading this DT for Regions project, which is a project that comes from the Parliament, also to say, let's bring the regions into this digital transformation. And I think he has a presentation online, so I think we will pass it on to him.